All right, John, welcome to the Compass Conversation. Thanks for coming out today. So let's start. How did you get connected with the Mike Mahalen Group? Obviously, coming out, you were playing football at Albright, looking for looking for the next thing, right? Playing a little football afterwards.
Yep.
How do we get there?
So, well, Mike's my cousin, so we're family. It's kind of a funny story, but I thought I'd be in law enforcement, but I really was chasing football all the time. So that was the dream, chasing the dream. Obviously, that comes with an expense in some capacity, right? So, was doing all that and called Mike because of the amount of connections he had. Said, "Hey, can you get me, job somewhere that's a little bit more significant, but still some flexibility." So he ended up giving me a job offer. It was a pretty tough job to get, but it was very limited as far as just being able to be flexible, travel. I was traveling all over the country at the time to try to kind of pursue that dream. And I'm in the job. They offer me the job, walking out, and the guy goes, "How'd you get this job?" It's like, "It's hard to get your foot in the door here." And I was like, "Oh, my cousin, Mike Holland, he put the word in, and I think he got it set up for me." And he goes, "Oh yeah, it was on Mike. He used to work here too. He quit. He's selling real estate now. He's doing really well for himself. He's killing it." I was like, and I didn't hear anything anybody said after. Actually, they offered me the job on the spot 5 minutes after that. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm calling you tomorrow." And I got in the car and I called him and I was like, it was one of those moments that like changed your life. I called him. I was like, "Yo, what if I started working with you?" And he's like, "Dude, I thought you'd never answer. Let's do it." And it was like that. So, next day we started kind of talking, brainstorming about how that would go. And I was kind of like his, lackey for the first year or so. But
Yeah, because you're learning the ropes. I actually heard him tell that story yesterday. Okay, so we were sitting there on the tent when it was raining, and he actually told the story. And we started dying laughing. So it was funny to hear you tell us today.
he said, when he started, he said, "Look, yeah, I know you got an ego. Just letting you know, like, you're never going to be the guy." And I was like, "All right, I can live with that." Fast forward a couple years later, but
Yeah. Now you guys are partners, right? Y'all here in selling Delco. So what's the mission behind selling Delco?
I mean, look, for us, it's just, you know, so I guess to take us back a step further, right? When we were thinking about what we would do and where we would grow, once we started really growing and becoming a big face in the real estate industry, we had all these different things kind of get thrown our way. Like, hey, you should kind of migrate towards a different market that has a higher price sales point, or you should do this. We didn't feel that, right? We felt like, hey, we do the high price stuff. We always have, but we like the low price stuff too. We like the mid price stuff. We do everything because it's important for everybody. So for our thing was like, hey, we know we have a really good community like network for ourselves. We want to take that, expand it, and make sure those people are getting like the best service, the most trusted, like actual advice that they can get where we're not selling them. So it's funny, like we use Selling Delco, but like if you ask me and him from a philosophical perspective, like it's always that we're doing anything but selling. Like we're never selling.
Yeah. You're not selling yourself. You're just selling the properties, but everything else is just the interaction between you and the person sitting across the table from you.
Yeah, and get them confidence, right? Like, in your industry, think about that. Most people delve into real estate 1 to 3 times in their life, right? Like you can't understand it all. You can read all the books you want, but if you're not doing it every day, this is where hey, I can trust these people. They're not sales pitching me. They're not reading me some script. They're doing what they can do to actually advise me the best way.
Yeah, I think that comes across even in the videos and with the amount of people you have when you have your parties, like your family parties, pretty much. I call it the family party. I know you call it something else, but like that's your family. Like those people are your family because you're saying 1 to 3 times, they're going to come back to you again. If they move, or if they go, "Hey, we're looking at a vacation home or a rental property," they're going to come back and ask you for that recommendation. Like, "Hey, if it's not you, who is it?" Right?
Well, it's funny. Like when I first started, and I'm young, I'm running around. Like I said, I was kind of in between football and this. I didn't know what the future held, right? If you asked me that, I was not saying real estate. I was just honest, but I enjoyed it. And I remember having a client early on, and Mike said, "Hey, don't do that. Like, tell them they can't buy that house." And I'm like, "Well, they want to buy it. Like, what?" And he's like, "You start selling people, they'll never trust you. Your business will go here, and then it'll plateau or die. You need to make sure you give them such good advice that they know they can trust you forever." And we tell people now all the time, like when I'm working with somebody in the beginning, I say, "Listen, I'm not going to ask you to trust me in the beginning. I'm not going to ask you to read my reviews or anything. I don't care. What I'm going to tell you is this. We're going to do such a good job. We're going to work so hard for you. We're going to try to give you such great advice that the next time you're anywhere, I have one goal. Like the next time you're anywhere and somebody brings up real estate, that you rave about our process and how we operate." And that's what we like. If you ask me to break it down into one fundamental, that's it. Do such a good job for people that they can't stop down. Delco Prom that you mentioned, like my favorite night of the year. Like think about getting 800. Sometimes we don't have to 1,000 people at that party that you're friends with. Like I'm friendly or have a relationship with almost every person in that room. It's just
Because of the job you guys did and your staff at them, right?
and the relationship we've kept.
Yeah. And also, like, we'll get into like Sassy Massy and things like that. Like, you guys do so much to give back to the community, right? So, what makes Delco unique, right? Like, what in this real estate market makes you unique that people don't try to move out? Because I live 2 miles from where I grew up, right? You don't live far from where you grew up, but it's close enough. Most people don't go far. So, right now, like, say what's unique about it now?
Yep.
Obviously, in the climate we're in, people buying real estate. And then, obviously, if you're from Delaware County, you kind of know.
Yep. So I mean, look, right now, I think what's really cool about it is, over the last 10 to 12 years, maybe a little longer, there's become like a sense of pride in being from Delaware County, and you could look at that whichever way you want. And I choose to look at the optimistic with the positive perspective of that. Like the people that are like the people that like we saw yesterday at the Delco, right? Like they're Delco natives. These are some of the most successful people you'll ever meet, but they're grounded, they're down to earth, they're blue. Like it is a blue collar attitude, no matter how much money they make or how well they've ever done. And, it's salt of the earth people, right? But the fact that there's like this pride in it now, I love that. Like, we joke and say we want to be pioneers for that moving years ago, because when I was talking about making that decision and we were talking about branding and we chose to like really lean into the Delco thing, which was around 2010 for us, when that happened, that wasn't cool. And a lot of people in our industry that we kind of looked to for some advice, because we were young at the time, they all shot us down on that. You don't want to brand the Delco people. You don't want to be the Delco guys. That's a bad move for you. You have future to go elsewhere and go things. Well, we do business in every market in this area, right? We do business on Mainline. We do business in Westchester all the time. We're always in those places. We're cool being branded the Delco guys. I like it. And I was cool with it then because it's who we are, right? Like authenticity is probably the most important thing in my world. And, that's who we are.
Which is great because most people are like, "Oh, you're from Delco? Oh, yeah." And then they get relate to like 5 different things because it's what parish you're from, everything else that goes along with it. That's the best part about it. And yesterday was a great event because you can see that those guys that grew up here and they're like, "I just want to give back to the community and do those types of things," especially with the Delco Group outings and things of that nature. But like, how is the real estate in Delco right now? Like across the board? I mean, from Garden Valley to Springfield, it's a tough market, right? Before it's everyone's offering without inspections, things of that nature. How are you guys talking to your clients about things like that?
So it is. I mean, listen, as a buyer right now, God, it's tough to be a buyer. It just is. And we have an inventory issue and we're still in that world, right? We're still on, everything goes back to basic supply, right? And the supply is just not good enough to meet demand. What's happening specifically here is we don't have a great influx of 55 plus or senior type housing, right? And we have a huge boomer market here. They don't know where to go, and a lot of them are looking at these properties that they currently are in. And before it made sense to cash out of those properties and go somewhere else. And it was either lateral or if anything, it was a little bit of a downsize and they had some money in their pockets from. Now it's the opposite, like it's because of the lack of availability, that's high, which in turn has less of those people moving, which in turn creates a bottleneck in the market where there's not properties coming on. So if you have something right now in any area in Delaware County, but specifically the most sought after areas, and you price it properly, you're going to have 7, 8, 9, 10 offers, right? And multiple days and waiting inspections. You price on the wrong side though, man, you're chasing and it can cost you a lot of money.
But you've been sitting there for a long time.
Yeah.
Because I just saw somebody had 30 offers on the house. I think it was one of your properties. Somebody said, "Hey, we put an offer in, but it was a bad idea because there was 30 offers on it." And it's not a bad idea to put the offer in, but you're competing against everyone that's looking for it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have a big market there. And what you don't want to do, right? Like we've seen it, right? We've seen people that have come in with hey, I'll price it so low that I'm going to get that. Well, now you're creating angst for no reason, right? Because if the property is priced at $350, but it's worth $550, you're going to get 25 offers you can't do anything with, right? You want to be slightly below the mark. Mm-hmm. But for buyers, that's tough, man. And hearing that you have to wait the section and you have to go over, and then sometimes you have to waive financing and appraisals. It's just not easy. It's not a world where we live. You go pre-COVID 2019 in our market, which was still a really strong market.
Oh yeah.
On average that year, I would say 85% of our transactions had home inspections. You go 2021 to 2023, And I would say on average 15%, if probably less, had home inspections, right? So you're talking about such a drastic change, not to mention the way it's financing, with appraisals, all this. It's put a lot of pressure on buyers. We're seeing a lot of parents have to come in and help with gift money and additional things. Which,
Co-signing, if you will.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's definitely a tough time to be a buyer here. I will say this, you go back to 2009, 2010, right? Not via two Phil Southall in the market, but you hear financial crisis, you talk about real estate crisis, and across the country, you hear 2008, sometimes you hear 2009. If you've really followed Delaware County's real estate market closely, because I was in it and in it to win it back, I'm like, that's when we were really, really wrong. 2010 was when it really hit us, right? Our area, this region in general, but specifically like, your suburban counties of Philadelphia, metro, right? We always get hit a little bit later than the rest of the country. So whatever's going on nationwide, we're kind of the last of the party, usually in a good term, right? So we can kind of see it come. What we're seeing across the country right now is inventory starting to rise across the board, starting to be more of like a stabilized market where you have to negotiate, you have to price right, all those things that happen in order to sell, which allows for buyers to kind of get a little bit of relief, right? So I think there is a world where we could see that. Now, metric wise, we still have an inventory issue. We just do, but there's a chance that in the next year to 18 months, we see a little bit more relief for some of the buyers. And then for sellers, having more strategic. So that could be like all these fly-by-night people that are doing this job part-time or when they can, and people are using them because it's my cousin or my buddy from school or whatever it may be. You're going to see some people getting themselves in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, they're going to wash out because they were like, all right, it's a boom. Everyone's buying a house right now because the interest rates were low. We're going to do this. So if you're not using the real estate agents that have the expertise that are going to put your house on the market, they're going to do content behind, right? Which we can get into in a minute because some of the content is hilarious. But if you don't have that right team, you're out. It's like the financial side. If you don't have the right mortgage broker backing you saying, hey, you can go buy this house. If you're not pre-approved before you're even going to this house.
Yep.
Or if you're not taking equity on the house you're trying to sell to buy the next one, I find that to be like, what shortfalls that people buy in the market right now.
100% up. I started doing video 2010. And the dumbest thing and smartest thing I ever did was I started, it worked. The world told me it worked and I stopped doing it. But in one of those videos, I said, hey, if you were getting heart surgery tomorrow, would you use the heart surgeon that did one heart surgery last year or the one that did 150 successful ones last year? Yeah. And anybody with half a brain would pick the person that does 150. But for some reason in my industry, we do come across people all the time and say, well, it's a buddy of mine, so I want to give them a chance, or it's a friend, or they just get started. And listen, that's great. But this is a huge decision and it can impact you significantly, right? It's the biggest asset most people.
But if their friend is part of a team, like, hey, I have John behind me, I have Anthony behind me, I have Ike behind me, that's a different story.
No, right? Question I answer. So people say that, I'll say, all right, well, what's their structure? Who's behind them? If they say, well, their broker, well, that broker is not going to get involved in that transaction. They're not going to help you. They're not going to advise. Is there somebody there and be hands-on with you? Then okay, you want to give that person a try, at least they have backing. If they're trial and error, I don't want them trial and error me or my family or my friends,
right?
In that huge decision and if they move on their life.
Yeah, because it could be a financial mistake completely across the board. It's the biggest financial purchase you're ever going to make in your life, right?
And look, sometimes, we do it more than I'd like to admit, but it's something that has to be done. Sometimes you have to say no. Like you have to be able to have enough balls to tell a client, this is not the right move for you. You should wait. Like you're not ready yet for A reason, B reason, or C reason. And don't do it. You're making a bad decision. Sometimes they'll still do it, but they'll say, hey, I respect you for explaining that to me, but I'm doing it no matter what. I want you to represent me. Great. But I can't tell you how many times we've had to walk away from quote unquote money because the deal was there. We could have taken it and we said no. And 3, 5, 7, 10 years later, whatever it was, it came back tenfold, but the people were so appreciative of the fact that we actually gave them real advice that I bet.
Yeah, you have to, because if I give them financial advice and be like, hey, this retirement plan is the greatest thing for you, but maybe we should hold off a year because you're gonna get penalized or something like that across the board. Instead, you kind of offer like maybe they're doing something to the roof span or whatever it is, and they're like, hey, we'll give you whatever, but you can just take the place. You're not going to do that.
Yeah, and look, it like to your point, right? If you say that, and I go, cool, I'll do what you say, and then I do get penalized, you just lost validity. Right? Like when I go back and you say, do this, I'm like, I feel you. Yeah, like last time you told me something, I got penalized. So I think it's just so important to have professionals. I think in the next 18 months, we're going to see a market where if you don't have people, like you said earlier, mortgage advisor, the financial end of things, real estate. Like if you don't have the right people in your corner for those decisions, you're going to be, you're going to set yourself up for potential failure.
Yeah, so you guys bring the real estate team. What I do, how I work is I bring a financial team. Like, right, if you don't have a real estate agent, you don't have a mortgage broker, you don't have an attorney, the state is already attacked. We bring that to you. That's the same thing with you guys when it comes to that. So the content creation you bring to selling your houses now. I know you said started in 2010. You probably have like 10 likes on YouTube once or twice. How did you get into it? And it has transformed over the years.
So the video stuff itself, it's funny. When I went to college, I thought I was going to be a digital video major. And talking about kicking yourself in the ass, I should have definitely stuck with that. Did a few classes, ended up pulling out of it, taking the easiest major I could find. Sociology, yeah. Easiest way out. Right? We call it the football major. But, fast forward, when I was doing the football stuff, an agent came, I was, picking through agents and one of the agents said, listen, I want 2 videos. Like, I just want a game video, pick a game video, and I want, highlight video. And you got to do that. I didn't have anybody that I could call back then that could put a DVD together and make that, but I knew enough. So I started learning how to do it. And then when I needed side money, when I was first coming out of school, I kept learning how to cut and edit video. So I was very familiar with it, right? Was I an expert? No, but I learned it. 2010, I talked to a guy very successful businessman, and he said, get in the video. So a guy like you, your age, as young as you are, get in front of a camera every day. Don't stop, be in front of a camera. And I was like, all right. And I went home that day and I shot my first video, put it out. And I said earlier, I mentioned the heart surgery thing. I had 3 deals from that video. 3 deals. If I told you right now I was going to put a video out and get 3 deals, I'd put 50 videos out a day.
Yeah.
And I stopped doing them. I did 2, 3 more and I stopped. And it was, I should have stopped with it. But anyway, fast forward to 2016-ish, 15-ish, and I was like, man, I got it. We had done a couple in between there, but I was like, all right, we really got a terminal. So we did it. We sat down and kind of found some buckets that we thought this is what we need to hit, right? One was the Delco kind of mindset, attitude, funny things about Delaware County. We started with that. And then we would spin it into, real estate, what we do. And then obviously property tours. And the property tours in the last couple of years have become a big thing for us. It's something that people are talking about a lot. And what we try to do is like, always try to do in our marketing is like not tell you how great we are, but like kind of put the spotlight on something or someone else.
Yeah. So little businesses, like you'll know a sandwich or you're in the middle of it, like you could pick wherever it is, best pizza steak, and I'm, make fun of that. But like, that's literally what it is. And like, what's close?
It's hyper local, right? Like it's about the area. If you're in, and we could do that anywhere, right? We do, like I said, we do Delaware County. We do stuff in Delaware. We do stuff in Jersey. We do stuff in all different counties around here, the Black County area. But we can find the local spot. Even if we don't know, we call around and ask people and say, hey, what's the spot? Like if you live here, what is it? And then we go there. We spread it out because we want to highlight as many companies as well. But it's cool. And you get people that, say, oh, I think this is the best pizza. I think this is the best cheesesteak. I think this is the best pizza or whatever it is. And that's fine. We go back and forth in a little bit. But what we're doing is, 1, we're highlighting the house. But 2, we're making people that are local pay attention to it, right? We're saying, hey, this spot is around the corner and if you know this, you'll love this spot. Check this house out. We do it quick. It's short. It's sweet, but it's enough to kind of mesh the 2 together. And it's funny. I did it as a joke the first time. And I got more texts, phone calls, emails, comments about that particular video, which was just a basic Prior Cliff Row home. But I said, Imperial Pizza is the Allen Action pizza. That's pound for pound pizza on the planet. And that was it. Like, it was like, I was getting calls, a year ago, you're right. So it's $7 or whatever it was at the time. And now we still kind of try to stay in that vibe. Obviously, for certain properties, we do a little more tailored videos, a little more higher end, bricks and actors and stuff like that. Usually it's our family and friends. But, we will kind of go with that.
Bring the kids from the local high school, prop them up, show them what you're doing. That's the best way. And you're just giving back. Yeah. It's all about giving back. So speaking about giving back, the Delco Group, right? One of the founders, along with our buddy, Artie Earl. Yeah. God rest his soul. You guys have, you can say it's almost like a make-a-wish for Delco, but
It's not that vibe.
yeah, it's got that vibe. But how did you guys think about it? I know you told a little bit of the story of the guy founding yesterday to people that weren't there. Could you give us a little bit of information about it?
So I try to give the kind of the elevator pitch version, but so the sassy messy. So take a step back a step further. For years, we'd always done something. When we heard anything going on in the community, we would just get behind something small, right? We probably call beer pong tournaments with one crew, another crew. Mike and I would raise money for things, or donate money things behind the scenes, or whatever it was. And then Delta Prom, we would always bring a decent amount of money in. I would say we would raise anywhere from like $4,000 to $8,000 in cash, and then we would go give that to somebody on the side that's going through a tough time. As a matter of fact, that's how we became a little bit closer with Artie. We had done a benefit that he was involved.
Yeah.
Fast forward, I get approached by Dan Emerson about the Sassy Massy toy drive, and he was very insistent on running this event. It was the second year they were doing it, and he wanted myself and Frank Cornetti involved. He was hell bent on it. So we did it. It turned out to be a great day. We, filled a trailer with toys. It was just awesome. And we're talking to Dan. He goes, I don't know why I had this question. And I said, just curious why. Why were, you were really hard pressed to get Frank and myself in this conversation. And he said, well, if the two of you get behind something, everybody in Delaware County get behind it.
Right.
And he was saying that in the most complimentary way possible. Or he's the smartest guy I know. I think he was trying to manipulate it, but I don't think
It's just how it feeded.
he was being complimentary, and I took it, and it was probably like the biggest gut shot I've ever been given. Like I felt like, man, this guy who barely knows me, I sold a couple hours when we were friends, but we weren't like hanging out every weekend.
Yeah.
He sees me as that, and I'm sitting here only worried about, am I working? Am I selling off houses? Am I doing those things? Right? I had other things that I was doing. I was always selling, but it was kind of like, oh man, I need to be doing more. At the time, I kind of sounds weird, or whatever you want to say, but I kind of had that little bit of empty feeling like I was missing something in my life. So that year I was with Mike and Jess and Holland, Mike's wife, on vacation or New Year's Eve or whatever. She said, hey, everybody write something down on a piece of paper and have to do it by next year. Just write down a piece of paper, fold it up, put it in the jar. So I wrote, I'm going to do something bigger than myself. And I knew what it meant, but I didn't know to exactly what extent. I folded it up, I put it in. And we used to do New Year's every year at the beach house. And following year, Dan calls me about the toy drive, and I realized I didn't do that thing. And this is November, October, which means December's coming up. So the next day, I went out. I called Paul Strauss, who's an accountant friend of ours who coached me in football. He hooked me up with an IRS guy that was really good, and they sat down with me and came up with a plan on how to just create an profit. At that point, I had no members. I had nobody. No, I didn't talk to anybody about this. All I had was a name that I stole from Jimmy Gallagher. So Jimmy Gallagher wanted to start a networking group called the Delco Group. We were going to start this networking group. It never happened. We had one meeting and it never became a thing. And I sold the name, put it in with the IRS, put it in with the, if you get the 501c3, approve all that, we got it. And then I started talking to people, and we kind of went through the county and picked people at random that we knew had some connections, that were friends with us, that would kind of mesh. And most of those guys, when they first met, didn't know each other.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about it was every one of them. So Frank, I take Frank out to golf. Frank's a busy guy. I said, listen, I'm going to talk to you about something. Here's what we got. I said, thinking about starting an opera. I said, well, hold on, hear me out. I think it's going to be a lot of work. We're not making any money. This is all volunteer work. Yeah. I'm in. I said, but you got to get, he said, yeah, I'm in. You said it, I'm in, it's over. I don't want to talk about it. We were on the first hole. I'm like, all right, well, and nothing else to talk about the rest of the day. Mike, I called, boom, I'm in. Joe gone, hey, Don. I said, guys, I really want you to think about this. The only three that gave me a hard time were the three that used to do the beer pong tournaments with me, but they just like the messes. And he said, it made me wait for a week till they said yes. But, all these guys were kind of same attitude right away. They were 100% in, right away, all in. Artie was obviously part of that group. And, then it grew from there.
Yeah. And it's been amazing. We get to see the videos, you get to see what you guys get back. Delco Smiles is another one you guys do. But all across the board, that is what the Delco community really is.
It is. And I told the story of the golf outing yesterday, but I have no problem repeating it again because it personifies Delco. You guys are earlier tell me something about Delco, right? So I get up on stage, we have our first event, right? So first of all, if you saw the meetings with the Delco Group, you'd laugh because our website says, below average people do above average things, right? We're a bunch of knuckleheads and we do not hide from that. They know who we are, so we have our first meeting and we're going to do golf out there. It's going to be the state, and here's where it's going to be and all that. We're going to release it. Let's be very tactful about how we release it, when we release it, who we're asking to be in it. And Frank, he's full of piss and vinegar and he's 100 miles an hour. He's like, cool, man. And I was in an appointment and my phone's like, ding, 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 ding. So I pull my phone out and people are cursing Frank upside down and sideways. He put it out there all the time. Throws it on Facebook. So now everybody's trying to catch up. We're all throwing out there. The outing sold in 35 minutes.
Yeah.
It's so much for a charity that hadn't done anything yet. And we didn't know what the hell we were really doing, So I told the story of the outing. There's still a lot of people that are in that outing that have transitioned now from maybe they were just golfers back then. We had 12 corporate sponsors that first year. We had 28 corporate sponsors this year. right?
Yeah.
So almost everybody's a corporate sponsor. The guys that aren't are all bidding like crazy on things, to raise money anyway. So you have all these people that come there. Most of those guys are in that group. And what I say every year, and I'll say it till I'm done running this thing, is that like I asked people to trust us back then. I got up and said, hey, we're raising money. I'm not sure what we're doing just yet, but bear with us. We got you. Like, we're going to make you proud.
Isn't that room so personal?
And, and look, I think we've done something to make all those people proud of us because we consider them part. Like, you are part of the Delco Group BSB. Like anybody who's involved in that capacity, they're part of it. Nobody wants to be a board member. It's a pain in the ass, but they're part of what we do. It's just an extension of community. And those people all trusted us day one. That screams Delaware County. Like, you have business owners that are saying, hey, I'll write a check just because I know you guys are Delco guys and you're not going to let me down. You show me another county in the country that operates that way on faith like that. Like, it's old school, man. Like, there's an old school vibe to this area still. And I love every piece of it.
Yeah, I just had a conversation on Friday with a guy talking about something. He's like, well, you guys are from Delco. I want to see you guys succeed. And he's like, I'm not even from Delco. He's like, but I want to see you guys succeed. That's the way they are. That's the way everyone around here, and I believe most people around here are.
If you're with the right circles, there are people that are constantly picking you up. And that group of people that are on the board of that charity, they're some of the best people I know. They're constantly like that. Like, they're doing anything they can.
Yeah, they're successful entrepreneurs that are just trying to go back to the community that made them successful. So that's really what it is. And they drove them. So like, you have the Delco Group, you have Selling Delco, you're a coach of football, right? I was up. How do you keep that work-life balance? Because your wife might want to kill you at some point.
At some point, or daily. Well, I mean, look, she's actually a really busy person too. So, that certainly helps. I think work-life balance is bullshit, if I'm being honest. I just don't think it's a real thing. I think if everything's balanced, then your life's pretty boring. And if you're, succeeding in one spot, another spot has to feel it in some capacity. So, it's just trying to know the times of the year and understand where the attention needs to be kind of shifted and focused to, so that you don't lose complete focus on certain things. So if you look at like January, February are dead dull months. It gets no attention in January, February, on purpose, by design. We have it in our calendar, the off months, because our entire holiday season is Delco Group, right? And the 4 months before that is focused on football. So it's just trying to kind of manage it, I think, more than to balance it. But to me, like, look, man, die tomorrow.
Absolutely.
I'm squeezing every ounce of juice out of every second I have.
So yeah, what's your favorite thing to take the kids to? Like, if you have to take the kids anywhere, whatever you're doing, is it a football practice, is it wherever, you get that more than that work-life balance, because the kids are the ones that your kids are the ones that.
Yeah, I mean, look, so they're just part of it all, right? So, and they all have their own things as well. But like, my oldest is into basketball. She's like really starting to kind of come into her own as far as like what she has to do and then kind of preparation and all that. She'd get up in the morning and work out. Those times are like precious to me. Like, knowing that she'll get up at 5:30 in the morning to go work out, or my son will do the same thing for football. I love being a part of that stuff. But also, like, look, we get away, right? Like beach, like going down the beach and kind of going on the boat and doing those kind of things. Like, we love all that stuff. So, but they're part of all that. They're all like all 3 of my kids, when they hear something going wrong now, and this is like, I say all the time, jokingly, but probably seriously, like, I'm probably a C- dad or whatever I am, right? Who knows? Well, time will tell how I turn out on that car. But like, where I feel like I'm succeeding is I'll hear or see things they do in public, but more than anything, something goes wrong and they go, hey, we got to help these people for Delaware. Like, Delaware needs to do something for these people. We heard the story. My daughter this year just passed. It's on the video that I shared yesterday, which is why I was standing in the back, because I'll cry every time I see it. Her teacher had cancer and was going through a tough time. I think she's doing a little better right now, but she said, hey, we should do something for her. I said, well, you have to do work. Like, you have to write a letter and submit it to the Delaware, same way everybody else does. And if it gets approved, we'll talk. And then it fit exactly what we do, and it got approved. And I said, all right, well, she said, oh, great. What are you guys going to do? I said, no. What are you going to do? Like, you wrote the letter and got accepted. Yeah. You're going to check out, or are you going to commit? And she committed, and she planned she was in 6th grade or 7th grade. She planned an entire trip for this woman and her husband, put it all together, met with a travel agent, and it meant something to it. Like, when she went to read the letter, we do a letter to every person that we do something for the most part. And she read the letter and she broke down. Like she was crying. It meant something to her. To me, that was like, all right, like, hey, I'm sure I'm screwing up in a lot of areas. But that I'll take that success. I mean, if I know that they really care about people and are willing to do, good things for people.
Well, it sounds like they're putting your work ethic and your impact to the community. So I think you're doing better than a C+, to be honest. Time will tell. So, all right, 3 to 5 years, where are we going? Selling Delco Group, where are we going? What's next?
Oh man, that's a question for my therapist.
I didn't know you had both.
So look, I love where the Delco Group is right now. We got to a pivotal point about 4 years ago, where there was a lot of internal kind of back and forth, right, on what we're going to do and how we're going to grow. I want it to be exactly where it's at in 3 to 5 years. See, if it's exactly where it is right now, with maybe a little bit more awareness still around it, which would be great, I'd be thrilled, right? We don't want it to become some corporate thing where we have to start hiring people or paying people. The whole point of that charity has been the money that comes in goes out, other than the basic nominal sense of WSR, right? Yeah. So I'd love for that just to sustain, continue to be a staple in the community, and that right there would be awesome. For Selling Delco, I mean, it's building and it's growth, and it's hopefully getting to a point where, I'm doing all the fun stuff that I love about the business, and my team is continuing to kind of grow and thrive, and they're doing their thing. And I'm able to kind of help them with that, and they not have to be completely tied to the phone all the time.
Right. Yeah. Just more about let them do their thing, and you can still create the content to help sell the properties and do everything else.
Yeah. The negotiating, the strategy, and the videos was, the marketing and talent. That's what I like to do. And I think we have the right people in place there right now that they're going to continue to keep taking a longer, or a bigger role as they grow. So I think that's, to me, it's bright, right? I think we have a bright future there. And just, I had aspirations at one point of nationally being in that top 25, top 50. It requires going out and recruit a little bit more. I'm not sure if that's what we want to get. So I'm time will tell on that part.
Yeah, because your team's pretty strong as it is. Yep. Don't get people out of it. You keep recruiting, it gets a little bit too widespread.
A lot of personalities in rooms can start to change. So there's not always better.
That's true. All right, last question for you. Give me the best pizza steak and the best pizza in Delco. If you had to take, because you do a bunch of the reviews online, you're going to have to call somebody out. Oh, man. Or it's just your opinion.
Yeah.
If you go that way.
Get some friends after this one. All right, so my favorite pizza in Delaware County, by far my favorite pizza is Ralphie's. So if you ask me right now, hey, we're in I don't know if you know that place or been to it. It's a little spot on Baltimore Pike out by 202.
Yep.
And he makes a certain amount of pies a day. That's it. He's not looking for anything more than that. And he's my guy. I love it. And his food is outrageous. So if I'm saying favorite, that's my favorite in Delaware County. Pizza steak, I'm a fall crawl pizza guy by nature. That's where I grew up. So that was my comfort food. Right. And they have that Greek style that they kind of put in the oven, toast it. Recently though, I've had Tom's in Haston, which is lights out, and Pop Pizza. When Nino's on the grill, man, that's a hard pizza steak to beat. That dude can cook. So they're probably my 3 go-tos.
There you go. And give you a little bit more of a line on it.
Got about 10 that I can fire off, but I'll stick there.
All right, Todd. Thank you for coming out today. I appreciate your time, and God bless the Delco Group and Selling Delco, my mate. For always doing it, Buck. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Compass Wealth Conversations podcast. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit our website at www.mycfsi.com. That's www.mycfsi.com. Or give us a call at 610-449-9900. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Compass Financial Solutions Incorporated. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. Please note that the information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only. All opinions expressed by the hosts and guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of any institutions or entities they may be affiliated with. This podcast should not be considered as financial or tax advice. We strongly recommend consulting with a professional financial advisor or tax professional to get advice tailored to your specific situation before making any financial decisions.